Chair Burdick, Vice Chair Ferrioli, members of this committee, my name is Cullum Willis, and I'm here at the request of Oregon Right to Life to ask you to oppose the A. Engross version of Senate Bill 494 and share with you why the -13 amendments would not solve the fundamental problem with this bill. Under current law, a healthcare representative does not have the legal authority to decide whether to make a life-ending decision for an incapable person unless the healthcare representative has been expressly given that authority by a principal in an advance directive, or a principal is diagnosed as being in one of 4 end-of-life conditions listed in ORS 127.540. ORS 127.531, which is the statute that sets forth our current form of advance directive used in Oregon, clarifies how a person gives this authority to his or her healthcare representative. Section 2, Part B, Number 2 states, if you don't initial this space, then your representative may not decide about life support. And Section 2, Part B, Number 3 states, if you don't initial this space, then your representative may not decide about tube feeding. Thus, ORS 127.531, the current form, is not just a form, but it's also a substantive law that limits the authority of the healthcare representative. The form interacts with other parts of the statute to ensure that an incapable person's life is not ended without his or her explicit consent unless he or she is in one of 4 statutorily defined end-of-life situations. But the A. Engross version of Senate Bill 494, even with the -13 amendments, would remove the current form from statute and make other changes that would eliminate this explicit limit on the authority of the healthcare representative. And it's important to note that it doesn't matter that the bill doesn't explicitly state this in writing, nor does it matter whether this is considered the primary purpose of the bill or not. It likely will be a real effect of the A. Engross version of Senate Bill 494, even with the -13 amendments. That's why the -13 amendments don't solve the fundamental problem with the bill, because although the amendments require that any new form be ratified by the Legislative Assembly and the governor, the bill as amended would still eliminate the form and make other substantive changes that would remove the current limits on the authority of the healthcare representative as soon as it's enacted. The effect of this bill would change the default rule, which is that except for in certain end-of-life situations, your healthcare representative cannot make life-ending decisions for you unless you say that they can, to a new rule, which would be that your healthcare representative can make life-ending decisions for you in most cases, unless you clearly and unambiguously say that they cannot, which may be difficult to do. This creates a situation where your intentions when filling out the advance directive may not be reflected in the decisions that are made for you when you can no longer make decisions for yourself. And instead of you having the power to determine what you want, a healthcare representative or a court will do so even after you become incompetent. The problem with this is that a person who suffers an incapacitating disease can still be competent to make some decisions, even if they're incompetent to make others. For instance, a person may be incompetent to make a complex medical decision for themselves, but still may be competent to decide whether or not they want to eat. And I think we would all agree to this principle, because it seems inherently repulsive to think of someone trying to force-feed a patient with Alzheimer's disease or dementia. We implicitly know that somebody who is not capable of making many decisions in life still may have the capacity to refuse to eat or choose to eat, and that person's will should be respected as long as possible. That's why it's so important that a healthcare representative only has the authority to make a life-ending decision for you if you explicitly give them that authority, because this preserves your ability to continue to make your own decisions so long as you have the power to do so, even after you become incompetent. One of the purposes of our law should be to protect vulnerable people who are at risk of harm from others. The U.S. Supreme Court wrote in its majority opinion of Cruzan, even where family members are present, there will of course be some unfortunate situations in which family members will not act to protect a patient. This kind of situation is particularly what we hope to avoid. Current Oregon law reflects a policy that we believe most Oregonians support. That is that a healthcare representative should have the legal authority to make a life-ending decision for an incapable person in most cases, only when the principal has clearly and unambiguously given that authority to his or her healthcare representative. The A. Engross version of Senate Bill 494, even with the -13 amendments, would undermine this policy and could allow a healthcare representative to make a life-ending decision for a person not in an end-of-life condition without his or her explicit consent. That's why we respectfully ask you to oppose this bill. We've made multiple offers to the proponents of the bill, to work with them in the interim to come up with a bill that would maintain the current statutory protections for incapable people, and we stand by these offers. We respectfully ask you not to move Senate Bill 494, but allow us to work in the interim to come up with a bill that everyone can support. Thank you.